Here's to the finest crew in Starfleet.
When it comes to my crew, you won't get any argument from me.
This is a parody. Paramount owns the song.
Welcome to The Greatest Generation. It's a Star Trek podcast by a couple of guys who are just a little bit embarrassed about having a Star Trek podcast. I'm Ben Harrison.
Good morning. I'm Adam Pranica.
It's a rare morning record.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not so rare anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's happening more and more often.
Morning records used to be hard. Like, I remember going like, God, how am I going to wake up and be funny? And I'm a little jet lagged from coming back from our London show, and I've been up for many hours. I feel fine.
I too have been up for many hours, but it's because I have a small child.
Is it not because your neighbor's alarm went off at 5 a.m? Can you give us an update on that?
A couple days in a row of it not going off or going off and being immediately turned off. Yeah, we didn't actually make contact. I haven't been able to address the situation directly with them. There's another thing that I've been wanting to bring up, which is that there is a tree on their side of the line that has a trunk that is totally packed with bees, and that tree trunk is right outside my back door. So every time I walk out my back door, I'm like, ah! There's like tons of bees like right around the back door of my house all the time.
You should get a bee guy to come out.
I want to get a bee guy. I want to get one of those like ASMR bee guys from social media to come and like lovingly rehome the bees. But these neighbors are just so they stay to themselves. They have a huge tall hedge in front of their house. Like, they're very hard to get in touch with.
They're not going to care about you calling in a bee person to take care of the bee thing. Just do it. Yeah. You can't live like this.
I can't live like this. The issue is that this tree is growing up through the roof of their house. Like like
Swiss Family Robinson style.
Yeah, it like grew past the eave, and so probably if this tree has to come down, which it probably should given where it is, it will probably require them to replace the roof of their house. So it's kind of I'm knocking on your door with a $20,000 problem, you know?
I mean, just take care of the bee thing first, man.
I don't know enough about bees in trunks.
Do you think these are structural bees?
I'm just thinking, like, if you have to cut the trunk open to get the hive out,
you're gonna want to make sure these aren't load-bearing bees. Once you take out the queen, the whole structure can possibly come down.
We've consulted with an apian engineer who assures us that these bees can be safely removed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just get the sense that they're not like sitting on extra money to replace a roof that.
This is a classic Ben conflict here. Benjamin R. Harrison would rather be attacked by bees every time he leaves his home.
Yes.
Versus alert a neighbor about a problem that the neighbor clearly does not know about.
I think they know about it and don't want to deal with it.
You know what? That's tough cookies, man. It's your fucking job as a homeowner to make sure that your tree doesn't fall in a neighbor's house, or that it's not full of bees that are going to sting a person. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like,
I agree.
Sucks,
I would never allow a bee tree to upset a neighbor of mine, but
this is an anti-bee tree podcast, all right?
Oh, man.
It's about time everyone knows that.
If you're pissed off about this being an anti-bee tree podcast, call 204-9844-FUN.
Did you intentionally get that number wrong? You fucking throwing your body in front of the Max Fun phone line?
No, it's 206-9844-FUN, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
If you've got a bee-related incident going on between you and your neighbors, you might just want to call that number.
If you're afraid to tell your neighbors that their tree bees are putting your child in danger, you might be Benjamin R. Harrison.
I bet Daron has got a very cute beekeeping costume. Hey, guess what? Halloween's just around the corner, man.
That's a great concept.
How about that? It's beekeeper family.
That might supplant firefighter or train conductor in the running.
You know what a classically passive-aggressive Adam Pranica move would be in this case? The whole family dresses up as beekeepers for Halloween and then repeatedly rings the doorbell of the neighbor's yard as just like the constant trick-or-treaters.
we assume you have lots of honey for us,
Yeah.
given the deal over there.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to be asking for an update on future shows. I think FODs deserve to know what's going on there.
I mean, the tree bee situation's been going on for 6 months. This is not new news, so...
This is going to just really out me as the idiot that I am. Are bees kind of seasonal? Like, would you expect the bees to go away as it gets cooler? Cooler in quotes in LA, or are these bees here to stay?
I feel like if they're going to the trouble of building a hive, they probably want to hang out in that hive, right?
I mean, you'd think so.
Yeah.
The new construction hives, though, the build quality's shit.
It's like you watch them put this thing up, and then like you see the like leak abatement people 6 months later with their van parked out front. It's like how they build this brand new building? They don't know how to keep water out of it.
There's a box-on-box house a couple of blocks away from where I live. New construction.
Yeah,
It's been for sale ever since it was built. No one's bought it. And the crews have come in and totally, like, they're already tearing that thing apart because it was built incorrectly.
jeez.
This is an expensive project they're doing on an unsold home.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. They need to call the bees in there.
Yeah,
Bees know what they're doing.
I mean they're gonna start by moving into a tree that is destroying someone's home.
And destroying someone's childhood, it sounds like.
Yeah. Doing a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Adam, no bees in the desert in this episode.
That's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah. You want to get into an episode of Star Trek: Enterprise?
I really do, Ben. It's Star Trek Enterprise Season 1, Episode 24, Desert Crossing. I'm going to begin with the ultimate question, Ben.
Okay.
Favorite dessert?
Creme brulee, I think is my top.
Tiramisu. There we go.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Tiramisu? What a useless dessert.
God, I didn't expect that kind of reaction. Jesus. You are literally yucking my yum.
I yuck your yum. I yuck it.
What is the problem with tiramisu? It's good. It gives you a little bump from the caffeine. Tastes a little boozy sometimes.
I'd say Italy and their desserts can go fuck themselves.
Wow, Italy
Yeah.
and their desserts.
Yeah. Don't care for them.
Well, you heard it here. This is a anti-bee tree podcast and also anti-Italy podcast.
I mean,
The hot takes always come on time for Benjamin R. Harrison.
I suppose the country is fine. I just think that they can leave the desserts at home.
Jesus.
Leave that to the French, you know? They really know what they're doing with the sweet.
Outrageous. All right. Well, Archer's log tells us that Enterprise is heading back towards Risa. Thank God. 'Cause
Finally.
Everyone's about to bust at this point. His plan, we hear recorded, is kind of a solo vacation trip from the sounds of it. But a distress call interrupts this scene before we get too far down the road with him. And these Risa plans have been blown up again as the ship is going to have to change course to intercept a ship in distress.
Yeah, and this ship in distress is the Clancy Brown ship, the Clancy Brown that we were promised when we read the description of this episode last week.
You know how so often there's, like, the aircraft carriers are named after presidents in this country, and then there are the other ships in the fleets that are named after people famous or infamous or whatever.
Right.
USS Clancy Brown sounds like a ship that exists.
They should commission that.
Yeah.
Man, would it be one of those like really modern ones that's all like weird angles that
Yeah.
looks like a Cybertruck on the water, or would it be like the classic ones that look like they could be, you know, there could be like a World War II deck gunner up there?
I mean, Clancy Brown is a classic, just a stone cold classic of an actor. I'd hope for a classic battleship
Yeah,
for a guy like that.
Totally.
Unmothball a battleship, rechristen it the USS Clancy Brown. Now you're in business. You telling me you're a country that's threatening another country when the USS Clancy Brown rolls up on your doorstep?
Oh yeah, we're pulling that into the territorial waters around you.
Yeah.
You're fucking shutting your yap.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Can we talk a little bit about the way Clancy Brown sounds in this episode? Not just the fact that he's doing Tevye with his accent,
What kind of mischief can I play on my friend Tevye?
but also almost all, if not all, of his dialogue seemed like it was looped to me.
I thought that maybe he wasn't familiar with Star Trek, and the only episodes he watched were the Voyager episodes with Leonardo da Vinci, and he's like, oh, I could kind of do my best Da Vinci voice for this.
Exacto.
I kind of wondered if he was just being regular ass Clancy Brown, and then he was like,
Do we know what Clancy Brown actually sounds like?
I assume he doesn't sound super different from Shawshank Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
Got that, you maggot dick motherfucker?
But then when he saw the dailies, he was like, oh man, I should have done more of a Tevye thing with that.
I didn't find any evidence of this in the production notes, but yeah, I wonder if he did his episode and he was like, that kind of sucks. I'm an alien with just a little something on my chin. Maybe I need to give it a little bit more in the voice department.
Oh, you're going to enjoy this.
Maybe here's my theory of the case.
Okay.
The ship that he flies that we see getting repaired by Trip Tucker is something that is CG'd into all of those shots. So he didn't even get to look at what the spaceship of this character would be until perhaps later. And he was like, oh no, that's not like a Clancy Brown guy spaceship. That's more of like a oh, we'll put this spaceship up in the air.
We are edging more into this territory. I've been accused of war crimes.
Yeah. The spaceship's a total piece of shit, but they fixed it. And he's like, you got to come chill at my home planet, accept my invitation. I'll be a total asshole about it if you don't accept my invitation.
I should warn you, Captain. I am easily offended.
Great news. We have a weird sport that you'll absolutely love. And for some reason, Archer agrees to suspend their journey to Risa so that they can go accept this guy's hospitality.
Did you believe that Zobral, the name of the Clancy Brown character, did you believe that he was actually taking offense, or this was sort of a bit offense that he's doing here?
It seemed like a bit offense, but then Archer takes it really seriously.
The way that you would expect him to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Archer's not doing bits that much, so maybe he just has a bad bit filter.
And if you think about Archer's experience for the entire first season, it's rare for him to encounter an alien that wants to hang out with him or have a conversation or whatever.
So he's like a puppy when an alien is actually open to his overtures. He's like, wow.
He has not received affection in a very long time. This is his Risa.
Totally. So he tells Trip, hey, great news. We've been invited to a piece of shit desert. And Trip is like, man, I wanted to get my dick wet. I wanted Jamaharon. Maybe I'll just stay up on the ship and wrench on the warp core or whatever. But Archer kind of insists.
You don't understand what these nipples do in the heat. They chafe real bad.
I mean, you felt chafing with your 2 nipples. Imagine 8 more along your forearms, rubbing against the inside of your sleeves, but also against the side of your body as you swing your arms when you walk. Have you seen me walk? I really swing the arms.
I really feel bad for Trip Tucker here because I've occasionally been the Jonathan Archer of these conversations. I really want to do something, and I really want to do it with this buddy.
Yeah.
And this isn't my buddy's thing.
No.
But I don't want to do it by myself.
No.
This hard sell is extremely hard, and finally Trip gets tipped over into being a part of this.
Archer and Trip just have really different ideas of fun.
Yeah.
They head down to 41-degree temperatures on this planet, which
nobody even knows how hot that is.
Sounds fine, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what they're complaining about.
It's hotter than hell out there.
They're wearing their special sand kit uniforms, which I do like quite a bit.
Yeah, those were cool. They discuss a little bit like doing survival training in the desert and having to eat snake meat and stuff, and Trip is not relishing that. So it is a big relief when the first thing they stop and do is have a great big meal with Clancy Brown, and they're drinking Yasalot, a local cactus wine.
Oh, yeah. Taking cactus wine to the dome.
Is that just like before you actually distill tequila? What it would be like?
Oh, interesting.
Like pre-tequila fermented cactus juice.
You know, pre-tequila can still get you pregnant, Ben. This is feeling like a way better desert experience than last time for Trip.
Yeah.
He might be coming around to the idea. Until they get served the bloody testicle soup.
The essence of the male, chopped and seasoned.
Yeah, that is
This is tough.
not an ideal dish.
I expected some tactical napkin deployment here. You know, one of those like, and then napkin over the face.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There's no spit outs.
You always think that that's subtle, but everybody knows what you're doing. Because you're never both hands wiping your entire face with a napkin otherwise, you know?
Yeah. It's rough. Archer makes the mistake of admiring a tapestry on the wall, and so Brawl just wants to fucking rip it right off of the wall and give it to him. It's awkward. Like, this is a sort of kindness that is just a little over the top for Archer.
Yeah. And he's like, I would have nowhere to hang that. And so Brawl is like, all right, fine. Well, I'll give you something else then. How about this little sculpture made by a Suliban? And Archer's like,
Take my Suliban trinket, please. This is small enough for carry-on luggage, and I think this is why Archer finally agrees to take it.
yeah. And like no liquid in there, so TSA is not going to have a problem with it.
The sound of a chime indicates that the Jeskana or Geskana?
Yeah.
GIF or GIF?
I don't remember.
This game is about to begin, and Zobral encourages them to not just watch, but to participate. And Ben, this is a kind of Star Trek episode problem that we've seen quite a bit. These crew people agreeing to play a game that they have no idea about when death could easily be on the line. You gotta get the rules before you agree to play the game, right?
Right. Is this a spiky bird type of game, or is it space lacrosse with a, LED lit up ball, as we find out it is?
I was expecting it to be more rugged. Like, it's very Sport of the Future looking. But, like, anytime you play a game in the sand, I'm thinking Rambo 3. Like, we're going to be riding around on horses, dropping sheep bodies onto little circles drawn into the sand, and that's going to be the game. This just looks very sophisticated.
The sticks also look like they were, like, very pointy at the end, and I thought that people were going to be, like, stabbing or otherwise harming each other with the sticks. Like, they get bloody, but it's just from, like, body checking and stuff.
The whole, like, volleyball is to beach volleyball what lacrosse is to beach lacrosse kind of vibe here, right?
Yeah. I do like that they were playing shirts and skins, and that Archer and Trip just assume that they're skins when Zabral throws them into the game.
It's like the volleyball scene from Top Gun, except a little more dudes in their 40s, you know?
Yeah, it'd be like if you and I were cast in the volleyball scene from Top Gun. Like, disappointing, but, you get the idea.
Yeah.
You can imagine that one special lady is up for whatever that is.
Yeah, she doesn't see very well. Back on the Enterprise bridge, they get a hail from a place pretty far away from this camp where they're playing this game. And the dude on the FaceTime also has a little something on his chin. And he's asking questions about why they're hanging out with Zubral.
Yeah.
Because odds are they're dead. I love how casually he puts this. Oh, that's interesting. That's who they're hanging out with?
I hope you're aware that most likely you'll never see your captain or engineer again.
I do like just the implication of like, hey, like urgent concern. Several hours ago, you sent somebody down to the surface of our planet. Like, what were you doing in the hours since then?
Yeah.
This is kind of a running thing in Enterprise, right? Like the people taking their time to respond to something, but then making it sound super urgent when they do.
it's the future past. Things aren't as instantaneous as we've come to expect over the course of watching Star Trek series.
They sure aren't. So, yeah, Archer and Trip finish up their game. They're not very good at this sport.
2 centimeters to the right and you would have had it. Next time I'll set you up with a no-look pass. All right.
I thought that they did a nice job of having the other guys look pretty solid at this, and Trip and Archer look like they were having fun trying to learn it on the fly.
I'm glad this wasn't a situation where they get the game immediately and are great. Like, I love Archer taking the shot and missing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good look.
It is. He whiffs it and gets his radio out and talks to T'Pol, who's like, hey, maybe like step away from the other guys while I talk to you about this. They stand accused of being terrorists by a guy that claims to be the government of this planet. You may be in danger.
That's an interesting point you made, Ben, because when you're on Star Trek, you're always on speakerphone, right?
Yeah.
Like,
none of these communicators come with an earbud. You always have to be like, yeah, I'm in the car with blah, 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 blah. How you doing?
That's it exactly. Yeah. And there's a moment where after the call, Archer hits up Trip and he's like, all right, looks like there's a situation back on the ship we got to get to. And Trip takes kind of a while to pick up what Archer's putting down.
Did it sound to you like the thing about the warp core was code? Like they'd established a, like, if I say something to you about this warp core problem, you'll know that, like, it's actually serious and we do need to go?
It sure does seem like there would be a pre-arrangement about the code, like sort of the, like, blind date phone call.
Right.
To get you off the hook situation.
I thought it was nice when the captain said that Trip goes, oh, I'm sorry, Captain. I forgot how the code goes. Anyways, Clancy Brown has to reiterate that he is a very easily offended man. Mm-hmm. And if, in fact, this is about the Chancellor dogging him out to Commander T'Pol, that is really going to burn his toast.
Yeah.
And he persuades Archer to kind of hear him out. He's like, you know, like, I know that those guys don't like me and talk shit about me every chance they get. But if you hear my side of the story, you're actually going to want to help me. And this is part of why I have brought you here. Whoa, what a revelation. His ship probably didn't, in fact, need to send an emergency distress signal. He was attempting to get in touch with Archer specifically.
This is never confirmed, but do you think that's what happened here? He was honeypotting a little bit? I
think so, yeah. I wonder if the microfracture in his hull was something that he did on purpose, or if he didn't even realize that his ship had a microfracture.
I don't know. We aren't made to know.
We are not.
So Brawls tells the story of, look, those guys are cast holes. And they hate me and the sports that we play out here. It's a bad scene. Like, there was a time when the promise of freedom was made once the caste system was dissolved, but that just ended up being a big lie. And so, like, I heard about you, Jonathan Archer. I heard you're a great and heroic man. Wouldn't you like to help us fight for our freedom?
The legend that has spread of Jonathan Archer is pretty intense. Like, the Suliban prison break of a few episodes ago is something that Clancy Brown has heard about and was a much bigger operation in his imagination than it actually was. And this is a war of liberation that he's fighting, not a like terrorist war as it has been characterized by the Chancellor.
Like he tells the story of the jailbreak and so forth and the Suliban incident. And then, like, kind of a lot of the story is about his virility and sexual prowess. Like, legendary stickman storytelling happening here.
Yeah. And Archer's like, oh, you flatter me, sir. I mean, like, you know, I can fuck pretty good, but it's not like I'm no legend.
I've heard about you, Jonathan Archer, and yet I've heard nothing of this friend of yours with all the nipples.
I was honestly surprised when you flung that ball and you missed the hole. I was told that you always hit the hole.
My people have written songs about you. Let me play one on this out-of-tune piano.
Stick around for the second verse because it is about your friend with the nipples.
A sound interrupts their conversation, and it's Tarathan cruisers on their way to attack. hey, go ahead and hide in this basement while we fight, is the pitch that Zobral gives to Archer and Trip. And they fucking do it. What? They have never seen what's going on in the basement of this place.
Yeah.
I did not love this instinct by them at all.
We have seen them dogfight in their shuttle pods.
Yeah.
I wondered if they were...
This is discouraged as a plan.
Yeah, like Wyatt has assumed that their shuttle pod would be no match for whatever is coming in on this strafing run. But yeah, they go down into the bunker and hang out there, and they can't reach the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur can't reach them. And like we are told that there's no way the entrepreneur could possibly mount a rescue given the assault that's taking place. So they just have some time to talk. And Trip is like telling the captain, like, hey man, maybe not a great idea to join the cause of somebody that lured you here under false pretenses.
Yeah, that seems wise.
But like Archer, like he is serving Benjamin R. Harrison in this episode because he's like, Zobral might be mad if I say no.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe. Faith of the fart, and you will never take the greatest gin alive. Ben would rather die.
What?
Back on Enterprise, they pick up the attack on their sensors, and they're barely able to communicate with Archer down in this basement. That's what happens. You go down into the basement, you lose all your cell reception.
Yeah, this is an old house, like thick walls. They keep the water out, but they also keep the cellular coverage out.
They can't beam them back either, and Reed's stupid fucking proposition of going down on a shuttle pod is shot down as fast as he would be on this rescue mission that he's proposed.
I mean, we get to see just the destructive power of the world government here because Zobral's house gets taken out.
Yeah, it's toothpicks.
All of those beautiful tapestries gone.
All that bloody testicle soup just dumped into the sand.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, what a waste.
So Trip and Archer run out of this ruined structure and go to the shuttle. And instead of trying to take off in the shuttle, they get gear out of the shuttle and then run into the desert.
I think for this episode to be good for you, you've got to be down with this plan. And I just do not get the plan. You got to get in and fly the ship, right?
They both seem risky.
You're exposed out in the desert.
They both seem risky, but the shuttle seems like it can defend itself better than two dudes in rash guards walking through the desert.
Right. Yeah.
We don't know what's in that desert. There could be sandworms.
Gods, what a monster.
I think the show's also established that Archer and Trip aren't very good shuttle pilots either. So maybe that's a part of it.
Right. They can't even dodge a wrench in a shuttle.
No. Yeah.
Much less a ball.
So they get some shit out of the shuttle, and back on the Enterprise bridge, T'Pol is pissed about being left in the dark, about the encampment attack by that magistrate from before. And this guy with the stuff on his chin on FaceTime was under the impression that they're aiding and abetting terrorists. And this guy fucking hangs up on her.
Chancellor.
If you attempt to launch another shuttlecraft, we'll have no choice but to consider it as an enemy vessel.
He does not seem to be super worried about the idea that they might have killed the captain.
Not at all.
He is not afraid of starting a diplomatic incident here. And it is the next morning down on the planet, and we get a long Lost in the Desert montage with the captain and Trip. Did you see where they shot this? I was curious if they I don't know that there were sand dunes like this in the U.S. I can't imagine that they went to Tunisia to shoot this episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, I doubt that myself. I mean, maybe they went to the Carolinas to Kitty Hawk or something.
Oh shit! You think these are beach dunes?
I have no idea. I can't tell the difference between beach dunes and desert dunes.
Wow! So all dunes look the same to you?
They do.
Cool.
They do.
Wow.
Desert dissolve as a stylistic choice. You just have to do it.
You got to.
Nice dissolve.
When you're walking through the desert, you need the super long dissolves playing out your sequence here. And that's what you get.
It is absolutely required of all filmmakers.
They do a good job of making this look miserable, right? This looks like it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it seems to be hitting Trip way harder than it's hitting Archer. Trip is just less desert compatible than Archer is.
I mean, Trip has 47 more nipples than Archer.
I'm losing a lot of extra water here, Captain.
I'm lactating.
You're never gonna let that go, are you?
Yeah.
They've got a 30-kilometer walk ahead of them, a distance that I can't process. I have no idea how long of a walk that's going to be.
Sounds long.
Yeah, and this sounds terrible for Trip Tucker. It doesn't seem like he's going to make it, and especially when he starts maybe hallucinating a ship in this scene. Is it a shuttle pod? No, it's not. It's the worst thing. It's another Tarathan cruiser that they have to hide from by burying themselves in the sand. Yuck.
Ugh.
That sand gets everywhere, when you're sweaty especially.
Sure does. And they're like a little confused that they haven't been rescued yet.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like they should be spottable. Like, it's just unbroken sand as far as the eye can see.
If you had to bury yourself in the sand, do you think you could? That seems really hard. Like, to hide yourself from a cruiser attack.
It seems like it would take a long time to do well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they managed to do it. I loved how when they reveal themselves after being under the sand, it's like the scale was really surprising. Like, I was like, oh, it's going to be little them under the sand. I was like, no, this is like a pretty close-up shot of them under the sand, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, up on the ship, we have a McLaughlin group.
Issue 1.
They're talking about this, scattering field that surrounds the planet, and Reed is, again, just like advocating for the most violent possible response to the situation. So he wants to start shooting down satellites.
It's violence against satellites. It's not violence at all.
But, I mean, like, T'Pol's point is well taken that this is, like, going to be an incredibly provocative move by them.
You're such a Benjamin R. Harrison about this, man. Like, the captain and first officer are in danger and in the middle of a war, and they're getting shot at. You think returning fire at their satellites is a provocation that supersedes what's going on the surface?
We don't know what kind of firepower the people on this planet have. They might have like 25 ships that they could send after the entrepreneur. They're lucky their presence in orbit is being tolerated right now.
My vote is shoot the satellites.
Wow.
Shoot them all. Every fucking one of them.
Let God sort them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
There's a transition in the scene that I felt a little bit bumped by that I wanted to ask you about. Like, the whole Reed and T'Pol conversation happens, and then the camera feels like it pivots to Hoshi. And Hoshi's like, how'd you make First Contact Day work? And it's such a change of subject. I found it, like, by the time the conversation ends, I get where her mind is at.
Right.
But I found the transition really interesting, and like as a hard transition, especially conversationally.
It winds up being a conversation about like, what do the Vulcans think about when they think about where to do first contact? Because we did first contact in a remote place with these people.
Yeah.
Which is not dissimilar from what the Vulcans did. They were in fucking Montana.
Yeah. How did we screw this up was a question Hoshi doesn't ask as directly as that. She indirectly asks that question.
Yeah, and I like T'Pol going like, yeah, but Archer is going to have to like figure this out eventually because what he's doing is clearly not working most of the time.
Right, like every time Archer does first contact, they end up in a firefight or eating gruel without using their hands. He's on a bad streak here. And T'Pol says that the Vulcan High Command has protocols for this, and maybe Archer should think about writing some of those.
Yeah. Down on the planet, Trip is now showing signs of heat exhaustion. He has to be forced to drink water, and he's just in a real bad way. Archer is basically carrying dead weight with him at this point.
He's an under-the-shoulder delirious engineer holder in this scene. Good scene for Trip Tucker here, who doesn't want to take another man's water. Like, that quote especially just felt like code for good man, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of Fremeny logic. Like,
it is, yeah.
I'll never give your water away, not even for a dead.
I'd rather you just spit in my mouth and on my nipples.
Spit on that thing, you get me?
But kinky, you know?
Piss on my nipples, Captain. Piss on them all.
Call me a dirty little nipple puppy.
On Enterprise, they pick up on Zabral's ship approaching. And I love this move from Zabral. He's like, look, it's kind of a gamble for me. You either let me in or I'm dead.
Yeah.
And rather than watching his ship get destroyed at the view screen, they decide to let Zabral board.
Reed and T'Pol go down to meet up with him as he comes out of the shuttle bay. I wondered if he had to go through the lube room at any point. Like, you know, who knows what he's picked up from bumping into all those sweaty dudes playing his stick game down on that planet's surface.
Has anyone looked more comfortable than Clancy Brown and all these robes as a guest star? Like, as costuming goes, this just seems great.
You'd think that velvet wouldn't work in a desert environment. You know?
I would drape myself in velvet if it was socially acceptable.
Yeah, that would also be my assumption. Huh. How about that?
But he looks great.
The thing is, when you're wearing robes like these, like, you're kind of turtle shelling. Like, you're just a couple of sticks away from making a shelter when you're wearing robes like this.
Great point. Yeah. Any environment where you can put a couple of sticks in the sand, you've basically got a tent ready to go.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, so yeah, like we're kind of confused because we heard all of the stuff about what a warrior Archer was and all of that, like, you know, liberating oppressed Suliban stuff he's been up to. And Reed and T'Pol are like, You have really got this guy all wrong. That is not his bag.
Would you like to watch a couple of episodes of the first season of Star Trek Enterprise? I can show you. People fucking hate this guy. I'm not even sure how I feel about him.
His illusions start to get shattered, and they're like, hey, man, like, you should really feel bad about the amount of danger you've put him in, given what a weenie he actually is. The
tables kind of get turned, because they ask Zabral if he can help Enterprise because he's got knowledge of the Tarathan defenses.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be exploited in their favor. But when he refuses, T'Pol is like, look, man, the assumption is that Trip and Archer are on your team. Like, de facto, they are, right?
Right.
So because they're in league with you anyway, you kind of have to defend them, right? You're obligated.
Honor bound,
Yeah.
and this seems to land with Clancy. So we cut back down, and Trip and Archer have gotten to the thing that they were walking toward, which is some buildings that Archer saw from the shuttle on their way in.
Trip snaps back into cogency, and he's like, no water? This abandoned camp is a dump.
Just wait till you see the pool.
And then, like, a bunch of Clancy Browns rise up from the dry swimming pool.
Oh, man. Clancy Brown going from being draped in robes to being in a banana hammock.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff.
You two look like you need to get wet.
It's exactly the opposite of that vibe that we're describing. It feels like they have accepted this is the place where they're going to die.
There's like a walk that's full of water that Archer is excited to see, but then he smells it and is like, ooh, no way.
You're just going to rust out your carbon steel walk by keeping water in it? What are you doing?
Yeah, unless that thing is like super duper well seasoned, like that is not a good
Doesn't look that
choice.
way to me.
It doesn't.
Dude, you fucked up your walk.
Well, you're going to have to run, not walk, to the restaurant supply store and replace that thing.
Yeah.
So now Trip has like heat stroke symptoms, and Archer's like stressed about keeping him awake and making sure he's staying hydrated. And for some reason, like they do use the water in that walk. Is it because he like boiled it or something?
I mean, we've got life straws right now, Ben. Why is that not part of the kit?
That should have been one of the things they grabbed from the shuttle when they left.
This is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
So they boil it to make it potable, but that doesn't make it delicious. That's part of the problem. Trip kind of turns his nose up to this water.
And Trip is really clinging to consciousness by his fingernails. And Archer doesn't have great strategies for keeping him alert. He's like, explain how the warp core works. That's not going to keep anyone awake. It sounds boring as hell.
You gotta be kidding me.
I mean, I'm with Trip on this. Like, I would have accepted him falling asleep and dying at this point.
My nipples are chapped. I'm exhausted. Just let me die.
Yeah. Yeah. A different subject is hatched, a much better one. It's what's the meal you want once you get back to the ship? And it's real steakhouse fare that Trip wants when he gets back there. And that sounds like fun. That's something to look forward to.
Sure is.
Ben, how close have you ever been to death? Like, that's a really serious question to ask, but this feels like as close as these characters. I mean, Trip has had a terrible season as far as proximity to death is concerned, but like, this may be as close as Archer has been.
I've had like near-death experiences where like something very dangerous happened nearby or whatever, and you realize like, oh man, like if that had broken slightly differently, that would have been it.
Yeah, like the moment you cruise through a red light on accident and you're like, oh, fuck. Like,
is that happening to you a lot, Adam?
No, it's not, but like shit like that.
Right,
the way you've
right.
described, like if shit just breaks differently, it's a different story.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been near death like from a like it is my health that is failing standpoint.
Yeah.
It's always been like a sudden emergent thing happens and I go like, oh shit, that was close, you know?
In high school, I went 4-buying with a buddy of mine, and we went up into, I wouldn't say the mountains, the hills, to do this. And we got the Jeep stuck in a big, deep puddle, and we were by ourselves, and like it was turning into night. And this was back in the day of like we didn't have cell phones. Like it was deep out there, and it was cold. And we were wet. Like, in order to get out of the Jeep, like, we had to get into the water and try to get ourselves out. And, like, we had to walk for a long time to get back down to... Like, it didn't feel like the threat of death was there. But, like, when you're that cold and wet at night...
You can be closer than you realize, you know?
Yeah.
That's scary, man.
That just felt like...
Did you survive?
No, I died for a moment. And then they paddled me. They paddled my bottom and my chest. And and I woke right back up again.
So at long last, Malcolm and T'Pol and Zabral go down in a shuttle pod to attempt to rescue Archer and Trip. They're like heading for the planet's surface, looking for them. I guess just looking for them from the air.
Mark 1 eyeball, sir.
Mark 1 eyeball.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the plan. Sensors still being scattered is the situation, so
right.
This is frustrating for everyone involved.
Archer has now moved on with Trip to the types of games that kids played in the backs of cars on long road trips before iPads existed.
This is the moment where I would have chosen death. Like, don't fucking do this. Don't play slug bug with me while we're in the middle of the desert, idiot.
But they come under fire, and this is like dangerous for them, but it also reveals to the search party where they are, because the central government is now shelling the little cluster of buildings that Archer and Trip have taken refuge in. And T'Pol sees this from the air, and she has them like shoot the mortar emplacement that is causing the bombardment, which... Now that you point out my my weaseliness about the satellites, like that is much more provocative, like shooting actual boots on the ground soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they could have.
Reed's option earlier was fairly non-lethal.
Yeah.
These guys are fucking dead next to the mortar, though. Like, clearly.
Yeah. They're super duper dead. I really liked Shuttle as Rescue Choppa in this episode. Sliding the door open and...
Love that POV from above, like spotlit down to your characters. It's such a classic.
And Clancy Brown, like, you know, sticking his hand out to haul the character aboard, going like, hey, man, sorry, I thought you were much more of a badass than you actually are. What a bunch of trouble I got you into with that Easily made misconception.
He's like Erickson from First Blood Part 2.
Goddamn mercenaries.
There's men down there! Our men!
Don't know whether to trust this guy.
Yeah. I mean, he does seem like a badass, but is he our badass or not?
Zabral's like, glad you made it! And Archer's like, huh! Decks him and throws him out. They give Trip and Archer canteens immediately, and I mean, Trip drinks lustily from his in a way that makes you think this could be lethal too. Like, you're not supposed to take water to the dome like this.
Yeah. Maybe it was like Gatorade in those canteens or something. you know?
Yeah.
Something
maybe
a little
so.
bit more like appropriate to the emergency.
Yeah. So there's a passage of time where it's time for Zabral to go, and Archer and T'Pol walk him out, and Archer tells Zabral that he's not the legend that he's been made out to be, and he's actually way more boring, and most people just hang up on me. But not you. Thanks for not hanging up on me, buddy. Yeah. And so he goes off, and that leaves Archer and T'Pol to walk the corridor together, and they talk about how torn they feel about leaving at this moment in time, because it kind of feels like they could help, and they're choosing not to. And that's kind of the ambiguity that the story is left with. But were you ambiguous about how you felt when watching this episode, Ben?
I was not. I really liked this episode. I thought Zabral was an interesting character. I liked that he brought them there under false pretenses, but also had like learned their legend under false pretenses.
Yeah.
And then like he was like an honorable enough person that when he had his mistake pointed out to him, he was like, oh, I got to fix this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it a lot from that standpoint. I loved the environmental stuff that they did in this episode. Like, it just felt really cool to see Star Trek go somewhere that wasn't obviously just the hills of Southern California.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked it. Clancy Brown, what a treat to get that guy in an episode.
Yeah, that's big fun.
How about you?
It feels like the urgency of needing to draw up some paperwork about how to do first contacts is let's not go to Risa, let's stop the ship in space and draw up a plan worthy. I don't know how many more times they can meet new folks without an architecture for this, because things keep going bad, you know? Like, I'm starting to feel like there is enough of a sample size to where like that needs to be the very next thing that they do. And to not do that feels irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember this becoming like a storyline in Enterprise, like where they like start to talk about like, hey, when we have an emergency, we should have like a set of principles in place for that. And when we meet people, we should have a set of principles. And like, I think that part of what they're writing toward with these stories is like the realization that this stuff needs to be more structured.
Yeah.
Which is like, having watched tons of Star Trek, it feels super obvious, but I guess the point they're trying to make is that it wasn't at the time.
I hope we don't get the episode where we like draw up the paperwork for the Prime Directive and so forth, and like the music swells as everyone signs it or whatever. Like, I don't need to see that. I'd rather just stay out on adventures at this point. I like the episode fine. I mean, we got to let up on Trip Ducker a little bit. He's had a difficult first season, I think. No one needs to get fucked harder than Trip Tucker once they get to Risa, I think.
Yeah. Well, do you want to see if anyone's getting fucked in the Priority 1 inbox?
Oh, yeah. That would be exciting.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Need a supplemental income. Supplemental income? Supplemental. Supplemental. Yeah, it's extra.
The interest alone could be enough to buy this ship.
Adam, we got a few Priority 1 messages here. The first one is of a promotional nature, and it goes like this. The DCEWB chapter is building a bridge in Dumangbe SE, Sierra Leone. There's a small stream that cuts through, and it is usually fine, but each summer, rainy season, the stream swells to 1,000 feet wide. No one can cross, even Kern. So no school, clinic, or road access. We're grateful for anything. If you could donate the price of one yummy donut, it would help. Please go to www.ewb-dc.org/projects/Sierra-Leone and click donate. Thanks again to all the FODs, Ben, Adam, and Wendy, for making us all feel great. Eric from DC. So the call to action here is that the DC chapter of Engineers Without Borders would like some help in funding this bridge project in the village of Dumangbe in southeastern Sierra Leone.
Wow, Eric from DC had me in the first half because I was like, they're going to build a Star Trek bridge in Sierra Leone? Like, what an unusual choice.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's far more serious than that. Wow.
Yeah, helping people that don't have the resources to build this bridge otherwise.
Hey, maybe after building this bridge, we can build an enterprise bridge out there. You know? Yeah. Hopefully they get enough contributions that there's a little bit extra for something fun.
I think it would be really cool, like, to have like a tourist attraction like that. Like maybe, like the Enterprise D bridge, I feel like is really cool, but maybe not great in the rainy season, given all the carpeting. So maybe an Enterprise bridge,
Yeah. We don't often get promotional P1s of this kind of seriousness, so I hope FODs everywhere go to this website.
Yeah, why don't we throw the URL into the show notes for today's episode so that it's clickable and people don't have to remember all of the slashes and dashes.
Yeah, good call. Ben, we got a priority one message here from Matt, and it's to A and B. I think that's you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, A and B. Adam is the goose, and the B is Bill Tilley. Oh, so I was wrong about that. Here's their message. Thanks for the pod, A and B. Just finished season 2 of TNG with y'all. I've been rewatching the episodes as you've been reviewing them. Apparently, you were just at STLV 2024. Hopefully, I can join you at the Prana Cabana. Maybe avoid the unfortunate incident with the floor scrubbing union at next year's meetup. Good reference, Matt.
Wow. Yeah. We got in a lot of trouble for defying the floor scrubbers.
Hopefully we'll be invited to go back.
Yeah. That's really fun, Matt. It sounds like Matt is a new listener who's starting from the beginning. So appreciate you getting a P1, taking a risk on still being into this podcast 500 some odd episodes later.
Love it. Love to see it. Plenty of FODs in the back catalog, too.
Our final P1 today is from Defested. It's to Adam, Ben, Rizzo, Steph, The Dith, Lizotto, Chris, Salinas, Bree, John, Aziz, and everyone else at Prana Cabana 2024. Wow, another Prana Cabana shout out.
Yeah, amazing.
Here I am, enjoying yet another great year at the Prana Cabana. Y'all, it was a blast seeing/meeting so many of you. Ice Bucket must survive another year. Love you all. Wow.
Defested is referencing a streak that we've had over the years at Prana Cabana where someone or several people takes an ice bucket and just dumps it down the front of their shorts.
It's the crotch dice challenge.
And it's great.
Yeah, it rules. Nobody should feel obligated, but it can be very refreshing in that Vegas heat,
No one's obligated to do anything. Prana Cabana is such a treat every year. I'm so glad we get to go to STLV and so glad that that's become a regular thing for us. Every year it feels like we run into more FODs at STLV and it's a thrill every time, but it's fun to have like an event where we can gather them because so often it's like drive-bys. We'll be walking to and from something at the convention and we'll run into someone and have a hang. But gathering them all up in one place sure is neat.
True. Well, if you'd like to get a Priority One message on the show, head to MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron and book yours today. We sure appreciate it. Helps keep the lights on around here.
Sure does. Hey, Ben?
What's that, Adam?
Did you find yourself a drunk Shimoda this episode?
Incredible.
Drunk Shimoda! Gotta make it. My man Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
I think the over-generous gift giver Clancy Brown is the specific drunk Shimoda I want to give this to. Like, he's seen their ship. He's seen how few like unbroken spans of drywall they have. They don't have room to hang up those tapestries.
Yeah.
At best, Archer could like throw that over the back of his chair in the clarinet storage closet.
So are you saying this was a gift bit too? Like Clancy Brown goes to the tapestry knowing that it won't be accepted because it's an overgift?
I mean, he is playing games at this point, right? Like he has Archer right where he wants him under false pretenses. Like going over generous with the gift giving feels calculated. So yeah, I think so.
I think the show uses the Clancy Brown typecast a little bit in a way that works because when he's on screen, he's so jovial and fun. I kept waiting for that other shoe to drop with him. And it does. But the way it does is really interesting and different. And yeah, I'm going to make mine Clancy Brown too. Just one of my favorite character actors and really fun to see him pop up on a show that I like.
Face of the fart.
Well, Adam, it is time for me to head to gach.biz/game for us to find out how we will be doing next week's episode. I'm also going to tell you about that episode. It is Star Trek Enterprise Season 1, Episode 25, 2 Days and 2 Nights. Shore leave takes some interesting twists when the Enterprise crew finally arrives at Risa, the famous pleasure planet. Amazing.
That's all we get? What a tease.
I can tease you a little bit more, Adam. This episode is directed by Michael Dorn, who has a special relationship with Risa.
Yeah, he sure does. As a ruiner of Risa.
I have had my fill of Risa.
Also, a cameo by Steve Wozniak, co-founder of the Apple Computer Corporation, in this episode. Probably handing out $2 bills.
Oh, that's fun. That's some Woz trivia.
Adam, last time we landed on square 9, which was right on the doorstep of a measure of a man square. But fortunately, we did not hit that. We did not have to fight tooth and nail over this episode. I'm going to go ahead and roll this bone and see what happens to us, if anything, for next week's episode.
All right.
You're required to learn as you play. Roll.
Again, a doorstepper, Adam.
Did I win?
Hardly.
I rolled a 56, which put us right next to a looking at each other during, which would require us to record together in person, but I did not hit it.
Hey, let me tell you something. I'm reluctant to go to your home, given the bee situation over there.
Well, I guess I would have to come to your home and get that power tool I lent you like 9 fucking months ago.
I know, man. We don't want to have a my girl situation once I go over to your house.
Oh, man, that would be such a sad ending to this podcast.
I know. Like, of all the ways one of us could go out, very surprising.
Yeah, like, ironically, we just had this conversation about near-death experiences, and then Adam is running into the streets with a cloud of bees surrounding him, like Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably going to close that casket if it's a bee sting related death, right?
Yeah.
Too bumpy.
Your wife would be so fucking mad at me. She's already pretty mad at me just in general, I feel like.
I don't know where you're getting that. I think that's just resting my wife vibe.
Maybe it is. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the signals, but
yeah.
Anyways, looking forward to a regular old episode next week. In the meantime, let's give some thank yous out, especially big thank you to all of the friends of DeSoto who support the production of this show at MaximumFun.org/join. Huge help in making this even possible. We also hugely appreciate Wendy Pretty, our producer, editor, who made this show sound so good. Got to thank Bill Tilley, our temporal Cold War time consigliere, making hilarious trading cards that you can check out at Greatest Trek on social media. Those accounts run by Rob Adler, our social media director, who also makes little video clips of us and doing all kinds of fun video edits. And runs our mailing list. We're doing a monthly newsletter, which I think is a very fun subscribe. So head to gach.biz/mail to get subscribed to that.
Yeah, it's not just stuff to read. It's like useful stuff too. We're giving away offer codes for podshop.biz. Newsletter subscribers were also the first ones to hear about the Nubbin Bug toy.
Indeed.
Subscribe to that list if you want to be the first to hear about anything Uxbridge Shimoda related.
Check out drunkshimoda.com. Check out the Wikia, greatestgen.wikia.com. Great work being done over there. And with that, we will be back at you next time with another great episode of Star Trek Enterprise and an episode of the Greatest Generation Enterprise where we have turned off the thing that controls how nice the weather is.
I hope we never do that. We've had a good run of weather lately.
Make it so. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Make it so. Make it so. Jean-Luc Picard.
Maximum Fun, a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.